Good afternoon. Welcome to this afternoon's edition of the Richard Urban Show. I am your host, Rich Urban, coming to you from historic Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. We present you news and views from the unification principle point of view. Today's show is President Trump is now resurrecting. I'd like to address the four indictments of President Trump, and more than that, the whole atmosphere and these kind of if they weren't so serious, you could call them kangaroo indictments, where they come up with these novel theories. Before we do that, though, I'd like to revisit one of my shows that was from May 21st, 2021, and let's have a look at that. So the show I'm talking about, and the article was published on May 23rd, 2021. You can find it at visionroot.org. You can just search for D-Day was on January 13th, 2020. So there, I posit and predict about what is going on right now. So basically, what I'm saying is, originally, Reverend Sun Myung Moon predicted that there would be a type of D-Day, an inevitable day, on January 13th, 2013. However, I think that was delayed until January 13th of 2020. What happened on that day? The first case of COVID-19 was reported in the United States. The delayed articles of impeachment for President Donald J. Trump were transmitted to the Senate by Nancy Pelosi. His first impeachment. Citizens and mothers in particular were successful in New Jersey in beating back a blatant attempt to strip New Jersey residents of religious vaccination exemptions for school children. And then I talk about the Revelation 11:9, where for 3.5 days the people of every nation, tribe, language, and race will stare at the bodies of these two witnesses and refuse to let them be buried. Everyone on earth will celebrate and be happy. They'll give gifts to each other because of what happened to the true prophets who caused them so much trouble. But 3.5 days later, God will breathe life into their bodies. They'll stand up, and everyone who sees them will be terrified. So I think the true prophets spoken of here are, in fact, President Trump, and not just President Trump, but the movement President Trump started, which is definitely about a Christian God-centered movement of freedom. And the other prophet is Christianity itself, which is really the more able or closer to God position. And Christianity has been going through a lot and an awakening of itself of types, sowing the need or to get more into the public sphere and, to have works, as in Book of James, faith without works is dead. So I'm predicting that in 3.5 years from January 13, 2020, that's about right now, July to September 23, the issue of that are going on will be resolved. So as I've been talking about in some of my other shows, I predict that Biden is going to resign. And in fact, sooner than later. And he'll be forced to resign. And already we see all the things are coming out about getting $20 million, about blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, about making sweetheart deals with, not sweetheart deals, intimidating the Ukraine. So that's my prediction. And I believe it can well happen and must happen even by the end of this month. So Biden is going to be out. That's my prediction. And sooner than later. So let's get back to these indictments. What's going on with these four indictments of President Trump? So I'll continue with that now. Okay, the key thing to know about these four indictments is that they're all political persecution. The jury was already in on President Trump, if you call it a jury, if you call these, let's say, call these indictments, a jury, quote unquote. We know they're not a legit jury or one that's following the law. That was already in before the protesters even arrived on January 6, 2021 at the Capitol. So what happened there? We still have the FBI not saying what informers are doing in the crowd. They still won't say. By the way, Congressman Mooney, my congressman, and other congressmen, what do we need an FBI for if all they're doing is targeting our own citizens? Defund the FBI. There's plenty of other law enforcement agencies. Defund it. Get some spine. Get rid of it. Plenty of state agencies, loads of federal agencies with overlapping duties. Just defund the whole thing. How about that for stopping it? Zero. Nothing. Goodbye. All right, but in any case, so the jury was already in on what President Trump was doing. It was all a setup. I've talked about that many times. It was, a setup, a scam to frame President Trump. Why did they let the protesters into the Capitol? Why did people on the left and the right, like Mitch McConnell, I was looking for the video, and I remember very clearly where he said, "We're going to make you pay." And I looked, a little while back, and I couldn't find it anywhere on the internet. Well, Mr. McConnell, I remember what you said. You said, "I'm going to make them pay." And apparently you're carrying out on that or making good on that. So we should really support and pray for and help these J6, what do you say, accusees, because actually they're being railroaded and targeted, and it could be any of us. They just happen to be there, or some of them didn't even go in the building. So let's look at the indictments, and we'll go backwards. What about the third and fourth indictments? So the third one is about the indictment, how President Trump somehow committed election interference by saying that there were fraudulent things going on with the 2020 election. Well, hello, that's what about half of all Americans, or is it 60%, believe. And in fact, there's plenty of evidence. You know what that's called? That's called free speech. So to come up with these indictments, to come up with novel theories. Well, the novel theory is that, like the lady in Fannie Willis in Georgia, that free speech is somehow racketeering and mob behavior. And apparently the federal authorities under the prosecutor Jack Smith are coming up with similar theories that somehow giving free speech is election interference. And so one thing I want to point out, I want to make really clear, this is exactly opposite of what's actually happening. Who are the criminals who set up Trump and me and you and all the American people who have been defrauded of many of us, and they're trying to defraud all of us of free speech rights? Who is doing that? Who are the real criminals? Well, Biden and his cohorts who are behind this, they're the criminals. They're the ones who are defrauding the people. Isn't it Biden who pushed, or who was saying that Ukraine couldn't get their funding, if they didn't stop investigating Burisma? Isn't it now absolutely clear that Hunter Biden was receiving tens of millions of dollars and his business cohorts? Isn't it clear that the big man was in on this? And isn't it clear now it's not beyond there's no refuting that he was on some 20 phone calls? Oh, but he was just saying, how's the weather? Hello. So this is insane. It's insane. So that's exactly the opposite of what's happening. So they're saying President Trump did something wrong when they're the ones who are committing election interference. They're the ones who are committing massive fraud with hundreds of thousands of ballots in Pennsylvania with no observers, with tens of thousands of mail-in ballots with ballot stuffing that's proven, if not in a court of law. In fact, it's proven by the analysis that people put dozens and dozens, the same people put dozens and dozens of ballots in the same ballot box. Well, in most states, that's illegal. So there was never any inquiry whether the 2020 election was legit or not. None. So people are these especially Jack Smith, who's behind two of the indictments. They're just making up. Well, they're persecuting people. Anybody, myself, yourself, anybody can be afoul of some law. Whatever the law is. Even like they did to Mike Flynn, railroad him, for doing things. And later, so they indict you, they drag you into court, and then later they say, oh, well, actually, you're not guilty, after they destroyed your reputation, made you spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, for big cases like President Trump. And then later, this happened with Bob McDonnell, the former governor of Virginia. They said he received illegal donations. And guess who was behind that prosecution? Well, it was good old Jack Smith, the same person behind the first and third indictments of President Trump. So the indictment was thrown out by a Supreme Court vote. It went to the Supreme Court. You know what the vote was? Was it, 6-3 or 5-4? No, 8-0. That tells you a lot about Jack Smith. None of the justices, whether they were liberal or conservative, none of them voted for that was a legitimate indictment. But what about Mr. McDonnell? Did that ruin his career as governor? Oh, sure did. So here's the thing. People like Fani Willis, she's behind the fourth indictment. Jack Smith, Biden. Now they're investigating whether Biden's office colluded, to call Fani Willis and all this. Well, I'm quite sure he did, but we'll see what happens with that. What it's about is, of course, persecution. It's about, the ends justifies the means. You know who promotes that? Communists. Probably you'll hear Fidel Castro promoting that. Or he had promoted that. Of course, he's dead now. After he tortured and imprisoned, 20 or 30,000 people, like Armando Valladares. Tortured him in prison for 25 years for the crime of not putting a sign on his desk that he supported Castro. Oh, that was okay. We're making the communist revolution. We're going to bring utopia. All we got to do is get rid of Trump and all these crazy right-wingers like me and you. And then, by the way, I'm not a right-winger. I'm independent. But anyway, all these people who would support President Trump, and then everything will be great. We'll have the kingdom of heaven, or since if they don't believe in God, whatever, we'll have our utopia. Oh, yeah, that's worked real well. Just check with Stalin. How about Lenin, Che Guevara, or Mr. Castro? How wonderfully that went. So this is insane. It's like these people, do you think Fani Willis is so stupid that she doesn't know that this is a bunch of bull crap? Of course she knows that. What about Mr. Jack Smith? He doesn't know this is a bunch of bull crap? Of course he knows that. But whether it's money or their delusions of grandeur, or their moment in the sun, or they're just plain evil, pushing godless ideologies or their point of view, whatever the reasons are, it's evil. It's wrong. Obviously, I guess except to those who think that anything is okay to get rid of President Trump, which is a very strange phenomenon. I mean, I've been around a while. I'm in my 60s, 67. So the thing is about it, I've never heard of any kind of movement like this since, I was of voting age or, could remember things like this where they try to stop a candidate from running by coming up with all kinds of politically motivated charges. So, as I said, everything is backwards. Biden is the one who should be in jail for selling foreign influence for money. That's a high crime. And as I said, Biden is going to resign soon. That's what I predict. Maybe, or hopefully, prayerfully by the end of this month. And he should resign. Mr. Biden, if you should hear this, by the way, go ahead and resign. That's what you should do. all the criminal activity you've done. Hello, anybody home? So, I mean, this whole thing, this is an incredible tide of tyranny, and we have to speak out about it. But I am a firm believer, as I predicted, that this is turning around. When I say in my title, like President Trump is resurrecting, no, I don't mean he's Jesus or somebody, but he does represent a movement of freedom. So I'd say the political movement is a Cain type movement, meaning politics isn't subject over God or over religion, but certainly politics or religion or God, let's not call it religion even, God-centered principles should guide politics. And so that's what you're seeing with the Trump movement, where trying to get rid of things that are bad. Was it perfect movement? Was he right about everything? No. I mean, it wasn't right about the COVID vaccines, and that's a big thing for me. But overall, he's fighting for your and mine freedom, on our behalf, as like he was saying in his South Dakota rally. So he is resurrecting now. Do expect Biden to resign, and he needs to resign right now. What an incredible person to do all this criminal activity and strut around like he's doing the right thing. That's incredible. That's not going on. That's being corrected right now. In fact, there soon he's going to have to resign. And of course he should be impeached, but I think he should resign before he's impeached. Yes, and I think even the Democrats or Democrats will vote to impeach him before the ship sinks and they have to jump off. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about today, that President Trump is now resurrecting and that we have to fight for rights and freedoms. Do be active locally. Don't cave into this craziness and all this lawlessness, making indictments about anybody and everybody. So now speaking freely is indictments. Like, I can be indicted for this show. Didn't I know that the election was not stolen? Oh my gosh. If you speak out and question it, of course, as Jonathan Turley, the legal scholar, is pointing out on the Hill in his article, of course, all the Democrats, like the Democrat from Maryland who's complaining about Trump being elected, and certainly don't forget Hillary Clinton, they should all be under indictment right now. Oh, oops. Oh, what happened? Give me a break. If you can't see that this is so blatantly dishonest, if you're so blind or so ignorant or so evil, corrupted, whatever, that you think it's okay just to prosecute and persecute somebody because you don't like them, i.e. President Trump or people who support him, then that's just plain wrong. Think about it. The shoe on the other foot, like I said. How about if someone indicts you because we don't agree with your opinion and you're in jail? Is that okay? Probably you're not going to agree with that one. All right. So President Trump is resurrecting. You and I are resurrecting. Like he said in his speech in South Dakota, it's not about him. It's about you and I. It's about resurrecting our rights, resurrecting our country. So do be active. Do speak out. Do vote. Do get in the public sphere. Do express your opinion. Do get on air or whatever. Anyone can do it, Write. Make a show. Write for the local paper. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the show today. I'm your host, Richard Urban. Do tune in for our next show. Check our resources at visionroot.org. I'm also active with the nonprofit Urban Life Training. Check that at urbanlifetraining.org. Also, the Daily Inspiration, which is found at visionroot.org or inspiration.visionroot.org, where we post inspirational scriptures 6 days a week. Do subscribe to that. I hope we'll be in touch. We are winning, and the battle is ours to win, and we have won it already. Claim your victory now. Be blessed, and we will see you next time.